ready to listen.
Yep.
This is a podcast. It's the Macabre Podcast Universe. You know us. You love us.
You love us.
And we cover film franchises.
Franchises.
Yes, we do. And
we exist to prove people wrong when they say sequels are
never better than the originals. And
I'm Jordan.
And I'm Micah. I tried to come in hot. And then you brought the energy.
And I came in hotter.
Yeah. We have been going through Ong Bak, a Thai martial arts series. And one of the most unique series I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the third movie.
Yeah. This is our little break from Star Wars, and I would say a very refreshing break.
Yeah. I'm back and refreshed and ready to watch the rest of Star Wars. But this movie, Ong Bak 3, the trilogy concludes.
Subtitle, The Movie of Montages.
Yeah, this movie's wild.
Uh-huh.
So what I want to do is I want to talk about an overview of the series a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I do think that it is insane that there is a movie that takes place in the 2000s, and there's a man who is trying to get this statue back.
Ong Bak.
And that is the plot of the movie. He gets it back. That's Ong Bak 1. And then for a sequel, they don't say, hey, what can we do with this other guy and his continuing adventures? They go, no, what if we go back 600 years into the past, in the 1400s, and explain what the Ong Bak statue is? And I gotta say, as far as a series decision goes, I think that is one of the wildest and coolest decisions I've ever seen.
I agree. Usually, we want prequels to maybe dive into characters' backstories. Nah.
Yeah.
We're going back to learn about a deity.
And I think that's the strength of this, because we talk so much, especially if you've been listening to Star Wars, where you get into these traps with prequels, especially with characters where things just don't match up, timelines don't match up sometimes. There are examples of good prequels. There are. But even, something like Captain Marvel, a movie we both really like. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, the movie has to explain why Nick Fury lost his eye from getting scratched by a cat alien. Yeah. And it's a little like, really didn't need that.
I never really wondered, but now I know.
Yeah, and if I did wonder, I would think maybe it could be something cooler, better than like a joke.
Uh-huh.
So you avoid that whole thing by explaining why a statue was made. It's crazy.
Yep.
And we discussed as a quick refresher, how the production was really troubled.
Yeah.
And this was supposed to be, like, there would be Ong Bak 1, and then there would be Ong Bak 2.
No Ong Bak 3
No Ong Bak 3. But there was a lot of production problems. The craziest production I've ever read about personally.
Yeah.
Besides Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
And if you have not listened to that episode, that's your teaser to go listen to last week's episode.
Uh-huh.
Because it's insane. There's a kidnapping. There's all this craziness. Well, apparently, quote, there was not a kidnapping, end quote. Mm-hmm. But it's all crazy. And this leads the studio to go, Ong Bak 2, we can't keep hemorrhaging money. We just have to end it.
Yeah.
So they end on a cliffhanger, like sort of cliffhanger. And then they use unused scenes from their shooting of Ong Bak 2, and they shoot some more scenes, and then 2 years later, Ong Bak 3 comes out. And one thing we said in the last episode was, I hope that Ong Bak 3 doesn't feel like that's what they did.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like that's what they did.
It does.
There's not enough story to support Ong Bak 3.
Well, it's almost like there's too much story, weirdly enough. And not enough action. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
but I mean, it is just so many montages, though.
I know, which we're going to detail every single one of them.
Yeah.
But what I remember from last week, too, is that when they had those problems in the production, they decided to bring in a character played by, what is his name? Please help me. The Crow. What's his name?
The character name?
The actor's name.
Dan Chupong.
So they bring in Dan Chupong after Tony Jaa has been gone for 2 months, and then they film the crow sequence that's in Ong Bak 2.
You mean 3?
2. That crow sequence at the end of the movie.
With Tony Jaa?
So Tony Jaa leaves the set.
Yeah.
When he comes back, they bring in the second director, Pana Riti Cry, to finish the movie, and they decide, hey, we have a new martial arts star. What's his name again?
Dan Chupong.
Dan Chupong. Let's put him in this movie.
Yeah. Okay.
So that leads me to believe that this movie, which features this crow a lot, and I thought was going to be a lot cooler, would had they been able to make just Ong Bak 2 the way that they had intended, like the crow wouldn't have been involved.
Yeah.
And there probably really would have only been another 20 minutes of him getting that last guy.
Yeah.
So I would think that pretty much all of this movie is them being like, well, let's make it a movie length.
Yep.
And let's write this whole crow thing that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my setup on that.
Yeah.
What are your big picture ideas, thoughts here?
Yeah, I think that this third movie just feels like a lot of filler, which usually you feel that in a second movie sometimes, but just feels like they're just milking every storyline way too far, and there is not near enough as much action, and then our main character basically reaches enlightenment and goes to confront the big bad guy, and he's mercilessly killing people, and it's that seems a little weird for a guy that just reached enlightenment.
I know,
or a form of that. And then they do the whole Breaking Dawn thing.
Yeah.
And it's nope, he just envisioned it. And it's that just feels like an excuse to do some more bloody action.
Yeah.
Which, for an action movie, I don't care, because that's what I've been wanting the whole time.
Right.
But do you know what I'm getting at story-wise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was one of the rare moments in the movie that actually works.
Yeah.
But also the special effects in this movie are crazy bad. They're they're 90s CGI bad.
Yeah.
And this is 2010.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty rough. It was still kind of a fun watch.
Oh yeah, I still enjoyed every part of it, even though it was just crazy on how much they were milking stuff.
Yeah. Well, I felt like in Ong Bak 2, it I could see a certain type of person watching that movie and laughing at the movie. To me, I was just there for it, and I thought it rocked. And it was so great. I mean, reminder, he fights a real alligator. Come on.
Yeah.
Runs on elephants. Come on. But this movie was there was a certain point, and I don't remember exactly when it was, where I imagined if we had our friends over right now, we would be pointing at the screen and laughing at this movie.
Yeah.
All together, and we'd all agree, because it got pretty bad.
I think too, the Dan Chupong playing the crow.
Yeah.
He does those ticks things. I mean, he's doing movements like a bird. I get what he's doing, but it
doesn't
feels so dated.
Yeah.
Because even if you make the same movie today, I don't think a character or an actor would be doing that.
No. Well, and I think I can't remember this guy's name, but the town for lack of a better term, lunatic.
Yeah.
Is really bad.
But it also feels like they didn't know what to do. So they're just throwing this guy in the scene because he's funny.
Well, and it's also too bad because it feels like that character in the other movie, it didn't feel like they were going for this in the one scene he's in, but in this it feels like they're going, "Look, he experiences a disability. Isn't that funny?" Is how this movie felt to me. And it was I don't like that.
It's weird.
I just don't like how he didn't play the character in a sympathetic way. He played it as look at me, I'm funny, but it's because
I just felt like this is for the kids.
Yeah.
Type of humor.
It
really
was
silly.
And I just think as an acting job, it was very unbelievable and horrible.
Mm-hmm.
He was every scene was no, don't cut back to him.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk about him further. So I tell you who made the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's directed by Tony Jaa and Pana Riti Cry, as was the last movie. It's written by those same two guys. The cinematography is by Nutawat Katikan. Music is by Turdzig Janpan, I mean. And it comes out May 5th, 2010. It makes $1.3 million in Thailand and $2.2 million worldwide.
Wait. What was the budget?
Didn't see it anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a bummer, but I it must have.
I bet they didn't get as much as the last movie.
Well, I get the impression that they had a lot of footage that they were able to use from the previous shoot. So it's probably mostly like my guess. I'm just taking a wild guess. Like anything with him in a beard and anything with the crow is probably new footage. So that is a lot of the movie, but a lot of it's like, okay, you stand here and just make a couple movements, and then we'll get a day of you doing that, and then we can move on. And on Friday, May 28th of that same year that it came out, Jaa rode an elephant to a Buddhist temple in Surin, Thailand, where he shaved his head, took vows, and was officially ordained as a Buddhist monk.
What?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. But that's a fairly common Thai practice, I guess.
Oh, okay.
So it's like he spent some time at a monastery for a couple of years, and then he came back.
Oh, wow. That's
movies.
Very interesting.
Yeah. But that's all the notes I have on this movie.
Okay.
This movie had little to no impact.
And because it's basically the same movie as the second one,
yeah,
no new actors. I didn't cover Dan Chupong though last time, who plays the crow. That character's name is also Booty Senkai. He is in Monster Hunter. He's also in the first Ong Bak, just as bodyguard 4.
Oh yeah, that's his first credit.
Okay,
ever.
And then he's in this movie called Dynamite Warrior, and I gotta show you a picture from it. But first of all, this is the premise, and he's the star of this. And this came out in 2006. The story is set in 1890 Siam. Siang Dan Chupong is a young Muay Thai warrior and rocketry expert who steals back water buffalo taken from poor Isan farmers by unscrupulous cattle riders. He is searching for a man with a tattoo who killed his parents.
I caught it all, but I'm going to need a playback on that.
The story is set in 1890 Siam. Siang Dan Chupong is a young Muay Thai warrior and rocketry expert who steals back water buffalo taken from poor Isan farmers by unscrupulous cattle riders. He is searching for a man with a tattoo who killed his parents. And this is the image that I saw.
He's a rockets expert?
Let me show you.
Oh, no! Oh, no! He's riding a rocket.
In midair.
He is riding a rocket in midair. Okay, this could be cool.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of a cool image.
I bet the action's so good in that movie.
Oh, man. From the creators of The Protector, Born to Fight in Ong Bak, Dynamite Warrior. That's crazy. Wow. Okay, well, put it on the watch list. We're watching that. I bet it's a disaster, though. I bet it's a disaster.
I bet the story is so bad, but the action, there's got to be some cool action in that.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Okay.
He's in other stuff, but those are the highlights.
Okay. Well, I guess let's jump into the movie. So it starts off and it's just a lot. So it's showing with this like blue filter scenes from the last movie, basically cut like a trailer.
Yeah.
And it'll show a little bit of a fight and stop. The image will stop and then it'll kind of fade into it. And then like the credits are slamming onto the screen, which made me think, okay, this is going to be pretty intense. They did not deliver on that promise. But it's reminding you.
This movie, though, same with the last one, is way more epic than I could ever think it would be. Like an epic tale.
Yeah.
It's such a big movie.
The last one?
Well, yeah, kind of both of them.
Did you like this movie, Ong Bak 3?
I think no. But I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean by epic? There's just like big things going on.
Yeah.
Like a whole like a kingdom stuff, and then like going to a Buddhist temple and like becoming one with whatever that is. Just a lot of craziness. And a crow person, like dark magic stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I
know. It just it stinks because the last movie he finishes his emotional arc, and he finds out his basically adopted father killed his father, and it's very intense. And then this movie, it just doesn't work. it's a bummer because I just really liked Ong Bak too, and this one really
Well,
falls
yeah,
flat.
it's just a bummer because like that the second movie was very much about revenge, and this movie it is for a lot of it, but I think he kind of learns to let it go.
Yeah.
But because it doesn't feel like a full movie, it just doesn't hit true.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wonder if it was just one movie, if he would still go into, they try to kill him and then he gets resurrected and then he just goes and kills the last guy. And there's no crow.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if you cut that down, that would just be like 20 more minutes.
But I do like what they do with the king stuff. But let's get into it. So he is prisoner, and I like the set. I'm wondering if that's historical.
Yeah. It's like walled in, sort of.
Yeah, but it's a very interesting way. And then he is like being held up by chains, and people are just hitting him with sticks. And it's the 13 punishments.
Yeah, it's like they just hit him until he dies.
And then he, of course, starts fighting.
Yeah.
Pretty cool action with the chains.
Yeah. And I said arbitrary action rule 1, chains are always cool, especially when you turn them into like boxing gloves.
Uh-huh.
Because he whips them around and starts punching people with the chains.
Uh-huh.
That's always going to work for me.
Yeah. And cool, just action limitation stuff. His feet are also chained, so he has limited mobility, and he's still doing some pretty cool stuff. But he becomes overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And he's still captured.
And they did a very weird thing where the final like blow that he's dealt, it turns into nighttime. Did you notice that? It
it makes me think that he was fighting all day.
Yeah, but it was so random.
I know.
It felt like it was a reshoot or a weird creative decision that didn't really make any sense.
I feel like weird creative decision.
Probably that.
But he is. So then the king dude is like crush every bone in his body. And it really looks like they're succeeding in that.
Yeah.
It's very gory.
It's very gory. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
We saw The Northman this week that we're recording this. And I was sitting by this woman, and the movie is incredibly brutal. And I wonder how she'd do with this movie, because every time something brutal happened, she covered her eyes, which was kind of the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, why'd you come to this movie? But I mean, anyway.
Alex Skarsgård.
Yeah, probably. But she was with,
Just kidding,
I think, a boyfriend or something. And when they left, I couldn't tell, but it almost looked like his expression was like, oh, crap.
Oh, really?
Like I shouldn't. This isn't a great date night movie.
Maybe what really? No,
I'm probably reading into it, but go ahead. What were you going to say?
I mean, but she was probably so excited because she probably heard that at the very end of the movie, 2 men fight naked in a volcano.
Huge spoilers, Jordan. I guess it's July when this comes out.
It's pretty far after, and that doesn't spoil anything that's happening. I just said 2 naked men fighting a volcano. If that doesn't get you to want to watch the movie, I don't know what else will.
Yeah, and Jordan kind of said it like, "Oh, brother, 2 men fighting naked in a volcano."
No, what I mean by it,
and what I say is, this movie's got 2 men fighting naked in a volcano.
But when the movie ends, I turn to Micah and I say, "Kind of silly, right?
Yeah,
2 naked men fighting in a volcano." But I think it was epic and crazy and stuff.
Well, like I was talking about, if you look at The Lighthouse and The Northman, I think Robert Eggers is kind of a silly guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a little bit like, wouldn't it be sort of funny if there were 2 naked men fighting in a volcano at the end of this? And people will not take it that way, but I'll be winking at the people who think that that's funny and kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Anyway. So then we see this hospital, this outdoor hospital.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a nice, it's like a one shot.
Yeah, it's a long shot.
Where it shows all these people who are
They're like
in pain.
Rolling around in misery. And you don't really know what's happening. And then a couple other people are like praying to a statue.
Yeah.
Or giving reverence to it. And I think one of those women is like a medicine woman.
Yeah.
And then these other 2 dudes are like walking and is like, what's going on? And it's like, don't you hear that the curse? These people all have a curse that was put on the land.
Now, okay, yeah. So they mentioned the curse, and I'm going, okay, cool. I'm up for a good curse in a movie. Let's go. very confused at how the curse worked in this movie.
Well, this I think is one of the added things. I do think that if the second movie and the third movie were one movie, they still would have done the crazy king thing.
But without the crow inclusion.
Without the crow inclusion, because in this movie, there's like a flashback to something that was not in the second movie.
Yeah.
Which always makes it a little confusing for me. Because it's
makes sense.
If these two movies are so interconnected and this wasn't included in the last movie, maybe this is all added, I guess. But the bad guy king from the last movie is still king.
Yeah.
And there's a flashback to him and a ton of other like kings. And then there's like one big king. And
well, it's almost like they're lords of their lands.
Yes.
And then the king of the like country or whatever.
And so then this king guy is like, they're all like taking a drink, like a toast or something. And he's like, anyone who betrays me will be cursed. And like, follow me and I'm the best.
Yeah.
And then he drinks from his cup and is poisoned and dies. And he's telling all of the other people like, a curse on you. You will be miserable forever. So that's why there's a curse on the land.
Yeah. So what's confusing about that is I just don't, it's just kind of like, here's this guy who's connected to Tien, our main character, the king. He kind of ordered that his parents get killed.
Yeah.
And shot his mom with an arrow.
Yeah.
So he's important to him. And then he gets this curse from this person that we don't know about or never met. And then, I mean, we know he's like a corrupt guy, and that's part of what leads him to want to kill his
He's
dad.
like responsible for all of the issues in the second movie, government-wise.
Yeah, but I mean, I just feel like it would be cooler if somehow Tien like sent this curse or something, because it's just weird. It's like,
or the crow is cursing them.
But even that, it's just like, here's this random curse that has nothing to do with our main character. And then it never really has anything to do with him in the whole entire movie.
No, it doesn't at all. Not at all.
So that's why I don't like the curse in the movie, because it doesn't have to do with Tien.
I just like the idea. I think it was just like, oh, I haven't really seen this before, I guess. Where throughout this movie, the bad guy, King, is going crazy. Because
I like that.
I think it's kind of like one of those things where it's like he's believing in this curse, therefore he is cursed kind of thing. And then you find out he really is cursed. But like he's just going crazy and losing control. And I just haven't really seen that much. So that was what was kind of nice about it. I agree. It wasn't great. Didn't really serve the story at all.
Yeah.
Because then it's like the crow takes over and it's like you didn't even have to have the other guy then. You didn't have to have both.
Right.
To get to the end goal.
I mean, I think the main problem is cut the crow from the movie.
I agree.
And then I think it would make them think of the story differently, and it would make a little more sense.
Yeah.
Which is such a bummer, because last week we were like, I can't wait to see what that crow's got to do.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work. Yeah. So, and my notes about this, Colonel guy is getting cursed because he killed some old guy, blood dripping down from head.
Yeah. And I was so glad that was a vision he was having, because those elephants, like those stone elephants, like moving around, I was like, that's bad.
Wait. Before let's talk about that in a second. So bookmark that. But before that happens, and this is what also confused me, is the crow guy. It cuts to the crow guy, and he sends like a black mist from his tattoos, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, I don't know everything about special effects, but it really looked like
they added it over the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like the mist stuff was just like a filter that they put on top, because it didn't like interact with a 3D at all.
I think it was, yeah.
And it looked really bad.
But yeah,
he sends it out, and then it goes into like the monk from the village.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this was confusing.
And then he like pulls it out of his nostrils, like blows it out of his nostrils, and it turns into a leaf, and that's it.
But then that guy becomes a monk, because he cuts off his hair.
Yeah.
Does some other stuff. Gives an offering to a thing that we don't know what it was.
Yeah. I mean, I had no clue how the old man and the crow factored into it.
No sense. And it's like, maybe there's a little bit of context we just aren't familiar with. That's always possible when you're watching an international film.
Yes. Yeah.
But then it's also just like, it was like this big epic montage.
Yeah.
And I just don't know what happened in it.
I suppose that the crow, I guess the crow is the physical manifestation of the curse that the king gave.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know why he sent the curse to the old man in Tien's village.
Maybe
I don't understand.
Maybe he sensed purity.
But it truly lost me there. And at this point, I think we're like 20 minutes into the movie, and I was kind of like, what is this movie?
I know.
Like, I don't have anything to
Tien's
latch onto
not
yet.
in it for like the good, like for a lot of the first part of the movie. But he is like basically dead.
Yeah.
And he is going to be executed, beheaded. And the ceremony is happening, and this guy is like bringing down the sword on his neck, and someone says, "Stop!
Yeah,
I have a scroll from the kingdom that says that this prisoner is to be taken away."
Yeah,
which I don't really know why.
Didn't explain that.
Didn't understand how that, other than like that person was just working undercover and forged the king's signature. I'm not really sure.
Yeah,
but he got him.
And so then he goes to the village. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the king's crazy vision.
Yeah.
So, like, blood starts pouring down. I mean, we should call him the Lord.
Okay.
Because there is, like, a king character. So, the Lord is, like, he's got blood dripping down his head. And then he starts seeing his kingdom, like, literally crumbling.
Uh-huh.
And it's some of the worst special effects you could see.
Yeah.
I mean, this is... In the last movie, we talked about how there were touches of kind of, like, silly CGI. But this is, like, if they took that and then they made, like, whole sequences.
This is why I think they had... just a significantly less amount of money for this movie.
Totally. But he has these elephants that are these statue elephants, and they come to life. Folks, it's bad.
But it's one of those things where this is me as a movie. You're always trying to give the movie credit. It's a vision. Maybe it does look like that.
When he did open his eyes and it wasn't literally happening, I was like, okay, I can forgive this. But it's ugly.
Yeah,
it's really
bad.
ugly. And, like, throughout the movie, crows are flying around him, and they look so bad.
Yeah, they don't look good.
And they're doing, like, Evan Grayson and I discovered this, like, any music video, like, for rock band music video from, like, the 2000s.
Has crows in it?
No,
okay.
But they have this weird, it's like, oh, whoa, everyone can use CGI now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It'll have, like, the band in, like, a gross-looking field with, like, the worst sunset behind them or something. For a great example, look up Train's Calling on Angels. A pretty freaking great song. But then you just see, like, everything is CGI around him, but it looks so gross. Mm-hmm. It is, like, so hard to look at. Mm-hmm. And most bands have a video from that time period
that
funny. Looks like that. Especially, like, emo bands and stuff like that. They all have these just awful. I don't know what that was.
I think it was just a fad.
They have that in this movie. Like, every backdrop that's CG and stuff has that look to it.
I feel like a lot of the sky stuff was digital or color corrected.
I don't think so. I think it was like, that was like replaced with like a digital background kind of thing.
Okay, but do you know what I mean though? By like the sky doesn't get the colors I feel like that I saw. Like the types of blues looked weird.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's all I suppose maybe they are just like pump up the blues or something weird like that, but oof man. We find out that only the crow can break the curse, is what the crow tells the Lord.
Yeah. Which
further confuses it because I feel like he is the curse. But he's like, only I can break it.
I think he is the curse, but I think he also, like, he practices dark magic.
Yeah.
So that's why at the end of the movie, when it's all, like, taken away from him because he fails, which means he never owned any of it. He was just bestowed with it.
Yeah, I guess so. But then I wrote the Wickerman attack.
Yeah, so Tien is at the like outdoor hospital place / village, and the people, Pim, his childhood friend, now a woman, is there, and they're all like, the monk guy is like saying like, we're going to restore him, and through all of our faith and hope, it'll like, we need to like guide his soul back to his body.
Yeah.
So it's like
love that idea.
He's like basically dead, but like hanging on by a thread. And then while he's there, the Wicker Man dudes show up to try and get him back, and everyone's fighting them.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Did you feel like the fighting in this movie wasn't nearly as exciting as one or two? Yeah.
Well, this scene didn't have Tony Jaa, so it wasn't as exciting.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. Like, it's better than a lot of like blockbuster action that I see.
Oh,
but
it's still like they're great sequences
a guy
comparatively,
got his throat
but
cut on bamboo. Come on.
Yeah,
you're not
cool.
seeing that in a Marvel movie.
No, you're not.
But yeah, it's just not as exciting because you don't have Tony Jaa.
Yeah, and it does feel like they didn't have time to choreograph like really crazy stuff.
True.
Because
I also feel like because this is like pretty special effects heavy, they like were. It almost felt like they were more interested in that.
Yeah.
Than the action in some cases. Like later on when the Crow was fighting like the Lord's dudes at his temple, there's a lot of just like quick cuts that I feel like wasn't there in the last two movies.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks because that guy's like a special or a martial arts star, you know?
Yeah. It doesn't feel like he's, especially with what you were reading and stuff, it doesn't feel like he's had quite the career that maybe they had hoped. I mean, I could be wrong because I'm obviously not.
Well, from what I briefly saw,
arts,
I'm not sure if he's broken out into the international scene.
Yeah. What was weird too is when they fought at the end, there was something about that fight that it was like, here's these two great martial artists, and it kind of felt like you could almost see in certain moments that they were trying to hit their marks instead of acting and fighting, which was just odd because I felt like when you have two like top of the line martial artists, you shouldn't be able to see that they're practicing where they're supposed to hit and stuff.
I don't know if I feel that way.
There were just a couple of shots where I was like, oh, that doesn't that's not very, it doesn't feel, it feels like you're holding back your blows and you're not.
I don't know if I feel that way.
Okay. And maybe it was because Tony Jaa is now like he's fighting defensively. Yeah. Maybe it was that.
I think so.
Because like his fighting style,
he's not fighting to kill anymore.
Yeah, this fighting style in this movie wasn't nearly as fun.
Muay Thai is not fun when it's not violent. Not
nearly as many knee kicks.
Yeah, but there were some in this movie.
There were still a couple, but not as much as Micah wants.
So the good guys beat the bad guys in the scene, and Tien is. Then I think we have a montage of them like restoring Tien, like taking care of him, and I think this was cool. But also, I just don't quite understand this, and I don't know if it's a movie thing or if it's a cultural thing.
Okay.
But they are part of them like restoring and like having faith in him is they're like building a statue that is him.
Yeah.
They're making Ong Bak, and people are giving offerings of gold and special materials to be melted down and turned into the statue of Ong Bak that we know and love today. And I'm just kind of confused of like, why did they choose to make this man, like, from what I understand, a holy deity?
Well, I think that like by making this statue and presenting their offerings, and it's kind of sweet, like the girl gives up her sleigh bells that she got and melts them down. I think it is they're trying to like navigate the soul back to his body.
Yeah, and I think it's also like in the last movie, while he was pretty violent and everything, he was like he like represented this clan of people that are being marginalized.
Yeah.
And trying to be wiped out.
Yeah.
And so he's protecting them. Because I mean, like in the first movie, that village is like Ong Bak is their god, is like the god of that village, from my understanding. And to have his head taken away is like they took, like that god is no longer present and can no longer protect them. And that, remember in the first movie, their land is cursed, or like they're going through a drought.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And it's related to Ong Bak being stolen.
Yeah. Which, I mean, the thing I do like about this movie on a broad strokes level is, one, if we went back and watched Ong Bak, Muay Thai Warrior, we would think to ourselves, oh, this is cool. Now I understand why it's so important that they have to have this statue back.
Yeah, it's fun to have the context because for me, you know, I'm not Buddhist. I don't know a lot about Buddhism, but I do know like these statues and stuff. And for one to be stolen, it's like that is a big deal. It's bad. It's really old.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I
But is
feel
it a
bad
big
for the
enough deal
people.
to like take a one-man war on like the gangs of Thailand? Not to me.
Yeah.
But then it's like, no, it is. It is just. He needs to get this back.
Right.
And I think most of that is cultural for us.
Yeah.
But with this movie, it's like, no, there's this huge story of this man Tien, and they need to get it back.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I like about it is I do like the broad strokes of he does like achieve enlightenment, so it feels like he earns his godshipness that is thus put into the statue.
Yeah.
So I like that. I just don't think the movie does a good job of getting him there.
Yes. And I think I've just never seen something that's happened while a person is still alive. Because everything that I've known about Buddhism are gods that were alive or that were around like thousands of years ago.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I even don't think that they're thinking that he's a god. It's just like a representation of his spirit and his soul, and his spirit and his soul will continue to protect them long after he's gone.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of what I'm saying and it is just like, oh, she just doesn't understand what a lot of Buddhism is.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of this is going over my head because of that.
Yeah.
But the girl Pim,
Yeah.
she dances in front of the statue, so she's like giving her art and her joy to the statue, and then Tien awakens. His soul has found his body, and
he's not happy about it.
Yes, and this is when the movie like
comes to a screeching halt.
Because in my head, like what I saw was he comes back to life. One training montage, one pep talk, maybe two pep talks. He goes, has one fight, then one big fight. That's what I thought was going to happen. I was sorely mistaken.
Yeah.
Because he gets up and he sees Pim and she's trying to help him because he has like atrophy in his body and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like trying to sing him back to life in a scene that is goofy, to say the least. And it should be really dramatic, and his hands are like his body's like, it's stuck in rigor mortis, really, because he's dead.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to like bring the life back, and he can't do it, and he's holding his body in these interesting positions, and she's like singing this song, and it feels like a different movie would have had a scene where maybe when they were younger they sang a certain song.
Oh yeah.
And this, it just sounds like, and I don't know, because I don't know the style of music.
You also don't know the language.
Anything. Don't know the language, but it sounds like she's just singing like something she's making up on the spot. That's how it feels to me. So it's kind of like, okay, whatever. And then he gets mad, like throws her out. He's like, no way. And then he decides to kill himself
by jumping off a cliff.
So he goes to this cliff. He first looks at the statue.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the cliff. And I wish I knew the actor's name, but the guy from Ong Bak 1 who has the crazy hair in this movie. George. We could just call him George for this.
I am still going to look it up, though.
Okay. But George sees him.
Pechtai Wong Kamalo. Kamlao.
Okay. Pechtai.
His name's Men in the movie.
Okay, Men. Men sees him at the cliff, and he's... I like the idea of this scene, but I think what they're doing with Men is so... the acting is so bad and poorly written that it doesn't work. But I like this idea where he goes to the cliff, and Men says, oh, I'm going to jump off with you too.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of deflates the moment already for him as he's going to like take his life, you know? And then he looks over the edge and he's like, no, I'm not going to jump off. No way. That's crazy. You'd be crazy to jump off that. I like the idea of that because then the monk comes up and he goes, Men is wiser than you've been. And he's the lunatic of the town.
Yeah. And
I actually didn't realize they were going for that.
Yeah.
Until he clarified, the monk.
Yeah.
So he's just saying like he has more wisdom than you in this moment.
Yeah.
I like the theme of that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's just not done well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just jarring.
And then the monk starts talking to him about that your name means light and light means wisdom. Basically saying like you have he says a lot too, like you were born under an ominous sign, which I think he's trying to say that explains the suffering that he's gone through.
And they don't show us the sign or make any other allusions to it. He just says that.
Well, that's another cultural thing that I think you and I just don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to spend this much time on tattoos and a curse, why don't you show us that ominous sign? That's what I am saying.
Yeah. But I think, simply put, it just is an explanation for the pain and suffering he's endured.
Yeah.
But at the same time, his name means light and light means wisdom. Basically saying, like, you have the opportunity, like it's within you to be wise.
Yeah.
So open your eyes, pretty much.
And
I like what he says. It's kind of just a classic kind of cliche thing. But the sun rises and he's like, look at your shadow. And he says, wherever you see a shadow, light is nearby. Right. So whenever you're at your darkest point, wisdom is right around the corner.
Love that. Yeah. That's great. And then he goes to this temple out in the woods and he begins to meditate.
Yeah.
Now, in this
another montage
meditation scene, it's really long. And there are, folks, 3 in a row different music cues, which was wild to me. So the music builds, da 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 da, and then it's like da 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 da, and then one more time it changes, and it's like almost cool, but it's mostly him just like stretching.
I know,
and so at first it's kind of cool, but then when the scene's like 3 or 4 minutes long, it's like it feels like we're watching Hot Rod fall down the hill in Hot Rod.
No, yeah, it does. Because then we follow it up with Pim comes back in the picture and is like, you're doing so well. Let's dance together. And they dance for minutes. And the camera just continues to twirl and twirl and twirl.
It's so long.
And it's again with the music cue. The music makes you think that every couple seconds it's the end of the scene.
Yeah, because it's like after 4 measures, it like builds and then it starts the 4 measures again.
What sucks is I like it, but I like the meaning of it and stuff of them like dancing together. Because in the second movie, he was at a dance school, and by this movie, he understands how important learning to dance was because it kind of coincides with martial arts. But they just dance together for so long.
And it's just. We started laughing because it seriously is like, okay, this is it. What? This is it. What?
Yeah.
It really feels like we're watching MacGruber or Monty Python or something at this point.
Yeah. That one in the Holy Grail when the guy's running across the field.
Hey, who's that over there? Run, dun, 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 dun. Where's he at again? Run, dun, 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 dun. And then the guys start like itching their heads and stuff. Like, is this guy ever gonna run, dun, 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 dun,
and then he's all of a sudden there.
And then he just kills everyone in the castle, including like the princess, I think.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's about as funny a movie as it gets. And then after he does that, he meditates again.
Oh gosh.
And it's like, I mean, this to me reeked of, oh, this truly was, they didn't, like, this feels like they made Ong Bak 2. It was supposed to be just one movie, and then they had some unused footage. They shot some, and then they're like, oh, crap. They get to the edit.
They have 30 minutes to fill.
Yeah, and they're like, let's do another montage. Because some of them are, like, basically the same things that they're showing over and over.
Is this third montage when he has the beard?
Sometimes.
So, yeah, this is what's weird about the third montage. I understand they have the beard because of passage of time. But so he has somewhat of facial hair. And then a little bit later on, he's got a pretty thick beard. And then a little bit later on, no beard anymore. And then a little bit later on, he's got the beard again. What?
Well, and that's why I'm saying, like, they probably shot 2 montages. And then they're like, we got to pad this out. Just put some of the other stuff.
But they could be smart and under, like logical of when... I don't know, the chronological order of the beard thing.
It was so weird.
Let's get to the crow thing again, though.
Yeah, because they visit the crow.
So
the Lord visits
the crow. He is going nutso butso, and he goes in the temple, And this is also a very drawn out scene.
And I literally had to plug my ears last night.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of tinnitus sound like for minutes.
It was so long.
I was hoping just gore wise that his head was gonna like explode or something because it was like for that long. And this movie is so fantasy that I just thought that maybe his head would explode, but it didn't.
And it's just and because I had seen the montages, I'm like, they're not going to turn off the tinnitus sound. It's just going to be on for like this whole sequence. And it was.
That's going on forever. And then the crow is like basically takes the guy's power, but all he really does is says it, and then he just starts fighting.
Yeah, not a great fight sequence.
Not great. However, I think some of the set stuff was fun.
It's cool that he's punching people so much that it's moving like 3-ton bricks.
Yeah. But yeah, not super exciting. And then he decapitates the Lord. And this you will always get points from me. When someone's decapitated head is on the ground and the body is still standing for minutes and the head is still talking.
Yeah.
And he's saying, I curse you. You will find misery, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just keep talking.
Okay, so now back to Northman. I didn't ask you this. What did you think of the a spoiler for Northman of the Willem Dafoe head?
I said that I loved it.
Okay, cool.
I loved it. It was so cool and gross.
Yeah, it was nasty.
And I loved that it was still being used for magical purposes because he cuts off part of a couple pieces of his hair and throws it in the fire.
Yeah,
love it. Did you notice though that snake was not real?
I didn't notice that.
I'm pretty sure that snake wasn't real when he was holding it because his fingers looked weird.
Oh, it fooled me. I thought that was a real
and
snake.
And maybe it's real, and it's just one of those weird things where like the lighting makes it look fake.
Isn't that
I felt
weird?
like it wasn't real.
Sometimes when you watch something and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely not real," and then you find out like it is real. That's when I'm like, I guess CGI is really gotten crazy. If I think something's fake when it's not.
That's very true.
Because I could have sworn that snake was real.
Yeah. Did we talk about how cool the night was? The night fight in like the underground?
Oh, that was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Me too.
The most Green Knight-esque moment.
Yeah. It did make me just want to watch Green Knight. But were they in a boat?
Oh, I think they may have been.
It kind of looked like a boat. Gosh, it was so cool.
Yeah.
That is a good usage of a fight sequence that happens and he wins. And then we find out that it didn't actually happen. But it did. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I like how it is in that movie because sometimes like in this movie when they do that. So in Ong Bak 3, there's a scene like in Twilight, like you said, where he imagines everything that's going to happen and then he makes a different decision. Mm-hmm. And in Northman, the same thing happens. But to me, it made me feel like it actually did happen.
It was a test.
And he did fight him and he did defeat him and now he's just getting the sword. And it's like the creature like resets or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It to me, I took it as like he literally did fight him.
Yeah.
But he also like metaphorically fought him.
Yeah, I think it's like body, mind, and spirit bested him.
Yeah.
It was
pretty
so cool. And I was glad that that it was a real person in a costume. And it looked really good.
Yeah.
Like there were some things that were like, no, that is a skeleton. You can like see the bones. But I thought the costume was cool and it looked really good.
So where do you stand on Northman now? It's been a few days.
Oh, it's still fine.
Yeah.
But like I said, great movie, not my thing.
Wow. I think it's bumped up since I've seen it.
I like want to watch The Green Knight now.
Yeah. I do like The Green Knight more. The ending of The Green Knight's just such a great ending to a movie.
I gotta see The Green Knight again. Like the character of. I gotta see that thing again.
Oh yeah. Well, and you know, and
isn't that the guy?
There's no eye strain when you're looking at Dev Patel either.
Is the guy who plays the Green Knight the guy that's in all the Robert Egger movies?
Yeah.
Well, I guess not Lighthouse.
He might have been in
But
Lighthouse.
He was in the Northman.
He was in the Northman at the end.
And we were getting pretty far in the movie, and I'm like, no, that guy has to be in here, and I have to not understand a word he says.
Well, I like how that guy with the really low voice, and then the queen in Green Knight is like, if you were doing a period piece, she's the mom and the witch.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're doing something that's old or medieval, you have to cast those two actors for some reason.
Yeah.
They have
the look.
and they just have like
You know, she was in the Northman.
Because she was in Northman.
Wait, who? The
She's
mom
in
in the Green Knight? That's not his mom.
No, the queen. She's the queen in the Green Knight.
The queen, I'm sorry.
His mom is like the witch person in
that's
the
right.
Green Knight. But it's like, if you're doing that, you just have to hire those two actors. It's like there's like a Hollywood contract out there where it's like, okay.
Well, I mean, that is just typecasting.
I'm making
or character acting.
medieval movie, and then this guy pops out of nowhere, and he's like, okay, these two actors are available, and you just sign right there. And they'll play the smallest role or the largest role.
Mm-hmm.
They're cool.
And they'll be great.
I really should learn their names. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. He is in Harry Potter.
Yeah, let's see. Testing me. He is one of the Death Eaters.
Yes.
And he's introduced in Half-Blood Prince.
I actually don't remember, but I remember when he dies.
Yeah.
Which is in part 2.
But he
doesn't have like much. He's like
no.
He's like basically an extra.
But he shows up in like Helena Bonham Carter's crew when they go to
to kill the Dumbledore.
That alley at the beginning of Half-Blood Prince, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And there's also the scene with Malfoy.
Yeah.
I'm
sure you're right.
Up in the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
That's Half-Blood Prince, right?
Yeah, when they kill Dumbledore.
And he's sending the portals back and forth, Malfoy.
Oh, you mean in the room of inquirement?
Yeah.
Requirement?
No. Yeah, where he'll send like the birds and the
Yeah,
apple.
because they're testing it, because that's how the Death Eaters get in.
Half-Blood Prince is cool.
Yes, it is.
Maybe no wonder people like that episode the most of our episodes.
I think it's like one of the the biggest mood shift in the series.
Yeah.
But I think it was kind of gradual throughout.
Yeah. To me, I don't really see like a big demarcation. It's just like each one is a little bit darker and moodier. Anyway. So then Tien is in the jungle and he has continued to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
And then the men comes up and he's like, hey, there's some people here.
Oh, yeah.
And he gets surrounded by all these guards and he starts fighting them.
Yeah.
Now, this fight's cool, but it has a huge flaw in it.
Yeah.
Every single time Tien makes a move, it cuts to Men who then does the same move and is like beating up this guard next to him, all comedic relief. And it just kind of breaks the tension of the fight.
Yeah.
Very awful.
Yeah.
What could have been good. Then Tien goes to the village and the whole village is destroyed.
And everyone's like either murdered or kidnapped.
Yeah.
And slaves now.
And so they start fighting in the village, the people that he fought in the jungle.
Uh-huh.
And one of them cuts at him and he dodges and it cuts across the statue, which I believe either the word Ong or the word Bak means the like god or statue. And then the word Ong or Bak means scarred.
Oh, really?
So so Ong Bak means scarred like god or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
But it was weird when you look it up. It's hard to find anything that's not about the movie.
But it's not real.
Well, I think Baks are real, or maybe Ongs are real. Hang on, let me look it up.
But I'm saying like this deity is made up.
Yes, Ong Bak meaning. So Ong is a classifier for Buddha images or statues. And then Bak means etch or to score. For example, your name on a rock.
Oh.
So yeah, I think that like in a literal translation, yeah, Ong refers to the Buddha image of this village. Bak or Roy Bak means scar or mark. So it's like a scarred Buddha image.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when the Ong receives the Bak.
Okay.
And it works. It works. And it's for a movie that's kind of weirdly indulgent and over the top and a lot of other things. They kind of just show the statue and then they're done.
I mean, it was refreshing just how we were talking about how prequels are just obsessed with explaining things.
Yeah.
It's just like, and it happened.
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness.
But I mean, my huge takeaway from this, I know we still have a couple scenes to talk about, is I just really think with series that maybe don't have a clear like sequel path, but you want to live in that world, consider doing something like this that's really out there.
Yeah. Wait, what? What do you mean?
I don't know. Like I'm just spitballing here. But and I'm not familiar with this, so maybe this is a bad idea. But instead of making a Ghostbusters kids movie, why don't you be like, hey, there were some Ghostbusters in the 1800s or something?
Oh.
I don't know. Like,
oh, okay.
Like do something
like what Back to the Future did.
Yeah. Yeah. Like go do something in the past or way in the future, something that loosely relates, but maybe is more of a weird spin-off.
I think it's always way more interesting to do something way in the past.
Yeah.
I think because we have something to hold on to in history than when you do something like way in the future. I think you just get obsessed with explaining how things work.
Yeah, and I guess the Terminator movies have fallen prey to that.
Yeah.
They go to the future and it never really works.
No. But I still haven't fully seen the Back to the Future 3. But it is like, that's exciting. They go to the Wild West?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just really like how it's only the statue that connects these movies.
The Ghostbuster, that movie's not a prequel though.
No, I was just spitballing like if
just
you're gonna instead of because right now we're in this time and we're gonna talk a lot about it next week because next week we're doing The Force Awakens and jumping back into Star Wars. Is like we're in this time where there's this reboot mentality where you take a series that everyone loves. I mean, they reboot Mighty Ducks on Disney Plus. You know what I mean? Like everything has to start over and it has to simultaneously like appease the legacy of all these characters and it has to create a new generation. And I think Force Awakens does it really well, but that's like the rare exception.
I will say too, after just saying that going way into the past is like so much more interesting, while I still do agree with that, Fantastic Beasts sucks. And that's way in the past.
But see, like if Harry Potter, I mean, we've already pitched a better version of those movies, but if they did say like, what was it like the first year that the school existed or something? Stuff that doesn't like directly affect Harry Potter or characters we know, but it's the same world. Maybe there'd be less.
And we know because of books that there was conflict over that with the four people.
Like having something that's a little less. I mean, that's why I'm nervous about the Lord of the Rings show. But the fact that it's thousands of years before The Hobbit even.
It can't even touch it, is how I feel.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think they're going to spend their time being like, and he's going to give birth to Gimli. Did you hear that, guys? Gimli.
Yeah.
Or something like that. It'll probably just be their own stories, but the same world that we love. Mm-hmm. Middle-earth.
With some sets that we are used to seeing.
Yeah. And if that show is good and successful, hopefully, like Force Awakens, it'll spur people to go, oh, this is a different alternative approach to sequels that we can take. I would hope.
And then maybe we'll finally get a Dark Tower show, a show run by that one guy that I can't remember his name.
Yeah. But I also don't even, after seeing that Dark Tower movie, I'm just like, you know what? They're great books. It's my favorite series. Let's just leave it be.
Yeah.
I don't need to see it because it'll never be filmed in a way that I would enjoy.
And guys, this is why we talk about franchises.
It's why we do. And that's a great little plug for next week when we jump back into Star Wars. We're really going to be diving into a lot of craziness, and I can't wait to rewatch all those movies. And it's the month of July, and on Patreon, guess what? We covered the Clone Wars movie. So go to patreon.com/MicahMcCaw. There's a link in the episode notes, and it's as little as $3 a month. And we're trying to get to 50 patrons this year. Once we get to 50, we're going to do an extra episode in addition to our extra episode where we cover every single Pixar movie. So help us get on that journey. Help us get to where this is all we do with our lives is make music and art, baby. And podcast too, of course.
Let's get back to this movie though, because we're right there. So Tien comes to this the Crow's kingdom, and you see that there are slaves everywhere, and they're like building.
And they kill an elephant.
Fortress. There's definitely some weird.
There's some animal abuse
stuff
on this movie.
Well, I mean, they don't literally kill an elephant, but there is just some weird I'm not sure if that elephant was not under stress.
No, yeah, I don't see how you could film these sequences without it being some form of like animal abuse.
Yeah. But just some classic bad stuff going on. And Tien shows up and is like, I'm setting everyone free. You're evil, but I'm going to do it in a nice way. And the crow is like, I'm evil and you're never going to thwart me. And then they get Pym up there and they slice her throat open and she dies. And it's like, wow, they just did it. Oh, wait, before that, actually, there was intense long zoom-ins on Tien's,
to their pupils.
On Tien's pupils and then to the crow's pupils. And it was zoom-ins that are like Vic Berger level, where it's like, this is not a true zoom-in. It is zoom in on footage.
Yeah, they are like in Final Cut, like zooming into the already zooming in image,
and it looks bad.
And it gets a little pixely as it gets further along. It's
but
rough.
Then Tien goes cuckoo crazy and starts killing people, and it's brutal and bloody. What do you think of this action?
I thought it was fine. I mean, it was fine. It was just by now I was kind of like pretty done with the movie. But also I was like, thank goodness Tony Jaa is finally fighting people. I know he did do some fights earlier in the movie, but it just, and it felt a little too quick in a lot of ways.
Well, I think because we were waiting for it for the whole movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he murders a lot of people, and this is when you find out it's all a vision. And that none of that happened. And then him and the crow just start fighting. But right before that happens, I can't remember exactly how it happens, but all of the evil powers leave the crow.
And he gets electrocuted.
Like,
he gets shot by lightning.
That's what that usually means.
Well,
I guess not always.
I didn't define what it was, so.
You're right. You're right. No, you're right. I'm wrong.
Thank you. And they fight for a while. And I just thought the fight would be cooler if they're... if this studio is like, here's our new martial arts star, and here's Tony Jaa.
I just think they're out of ideas at this point. Yeah. I really do. But I thought it was cool when the crow threw a spear at him. I like how that was shot.
Yeah, because it looks like he got him.
Uh-huh.
And then the camera pins around and he's got it, but it touched him a little bit, so he's bleeding.
It's like his hands.
Yeah.
But yeah, they fight, and the crow like falls off a ledge onto an elephant's tusk. I was afraid that it was going to be like on an actual elephant, but the tusk was no longer part of the elephant.
Yeah,
thank goodness. And he dies. And it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like Tien has reached this place where it's like he uses his body as a weapon, all this stuff, but he doesn't need to kill anymore. He's above it.
Yeah.
So this guy just fell to his death.
Right. and then it just shows him at the top of a mountain, and like pop music starts playing.
Yep.
And he's just practicing martial arts.
Uh-huh.
And it was a pretty lame ending to the series.
Such a bummer.
I mean, ranking's pretty easy. Number 3 is the worst. I think I'm going to put number 1 next, and I'll put number 2 at the top.
I think I'm going to go 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. But 1 was pretty freaking good.
The street chase scene was just my favorite sequence in the whole movie.
Yeah. I'm going to stick to 2 at number top.
Yeah.
At number top.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, we covered it as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
One of our shorter eps.
How short? We talking?
Oh, we're still in the clear. We breached an hour. But, I mean, when you don't have any actors and you have no production notes, what are you going to do?
Yeah. But while this movie wasn't very good, definitely would recommend this series.
Yeah.
Because it's on a whole just awesome and cool. And like we've said this in the first 2 movies too. When you listen to if you listen to this podcast weekly and you see this movie pop up, Ong Bak, and you're like, I've never even heard of it, I'm not going to listen to it. I know we're now on the 3rd episode, so this is kind of pointless to say this, but just don't let that discourage you from just watching something you've never considered watching before.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because it's not a big action blockbuster. Well,
but
it is.
You'll be seeing action, that action you've never seen in your life.
Yeah. But I will say, too, I mean, I would tell people in the future if they were asking about these or something, is I would say just watch 1 and 2. Because 2, though it has a cliffhanger, it does finish the story, I think.
Yeah.
And so watch 1 and 2, and then if you're like, if you're just like, I don't care if it's bad or not, I just want to watch it, then watch the third one.
Yeah.
But heck of a fun time. I've been meaning to watch Ong Bak for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years.
And now we got to watch The Protector so we can actually see that one scene, that
Yes.
8-minute shot scene.
And we will, in August, next month, we will be covering The Protector on Patreon. So definitely stick around for that. And next week we head back to Star Wars, and we will be covering the remaining 5 Star Wars movies. And I think
you asked for it, we answered.
And I think Thor's gonna be sometime this month, and I think Puss in Boots is coming out here pretty soon. So there's a lot of new releases too. But you and I still got to watch Doctor Strange this week.
As of recording.
As of recording, the movie's not even out. But you, the listener, listened to that episode 2 months ago.
Do you think this is annoying for them to hear this, or
I think they're sitting there going, "Wow, I love to hear how they work."
they're so prepared?
Yeah, we got some vacations coming up, so we got to make sure we're booked ahead.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you.
Leave us a review, please.
Yeah.
5 stars, Apple. Bye.
Let us know what your best stunt was in this series.
Okay, bye.